Yaira #1. This has been the massive book from the Rippaverse that we've been waiting for. So when ISOM launched, ISOM #1 launched back in 22, launched Rippaverse. People were intrigued by ISOM, very interested in ISOM, but it was Yaira that really grabbed the interest of the fans. Everyone was like, when is Yaira getting her own book? We need Yaira. She's such an interesting character. We want to see more of her. And finally, the day is here. We have Yaira #1. Yaira Winter is upon us. This book is by Jen and Sylvia Soskas being the writers, Debra Carita being the artist. We have Viago Gnomes, 137 Studio, did the inks for this book. Jay Brown did the colors, and Cannon White was the lead art editor on this book. And I have to say, this is a fantastic book. So when I've talked about the Rippaverse, and I've done Rippaverse reviews, written reviews on Substack for all these books, including Yaira #1, I always mention the universe aspect of the Rippaverse, right? The idea that you have these multiple converging stories upon each other that are set in the same universe. They are their own standalone stories, but since they're set in the same universe, they overlap. They build on themselves and build on each other. And with the Soska sisters being the lore masters for the Rippaverse, they're going to be doing all the writing or general overview of the writing, handling that universe aspect of the Rippaverse. Their own writing should be reflective of that, and I have to say it definitely is. So not only is Yaira a good book on its own, it tells a good story, but it leaves you wanting more and also builds on the Rippaverse because you have the Alpha Core appearing in this book. Um, you have Altona and Lincoln Usibucio, who are both appear in ISOM #2. So those characters, you see them; they're built upon. They play a role in the story, and it enhances the reading experience if you've read ISOM #1 and you know Altona's, like you see her in that book, and you're like, oh, it gives the story more meaning. But if you're reading this as your introduction to the Rippaverse, it's a story that makes sense because you don't need to know everything about Altona to get the story. So this is definitely a fast-paced 96-page. It's action-packed, so it's paced very quickly. A lot goes on, so you could get lost a little bit, but it's done very well. So I have to say the writing is done fantastically. You have fantastic art. I don't want to flip through too much of this book because I don't want to spoil too much. But you've got scenes. These are scenes from the trailer, the live action trailer. It's all done very well. I'd say it's lettered very well. Characters have different lettering, so you've got this generic lettering here for characters speaking generically. You've got special lettering for more special characters. So the lettering helps give the characters personality. The dialogue itself helps with the personality of the character. So I would have to say, artistically, this is a great book. And one of the things is that with Cannon White being the lead art editor, and it was established that Cannon's presence would be felt with Yaira #1. And this is the preview page. I'm not sure how well you can see these, but these two preview pages that appear at the end of ISOM #2, and you see here there's a prison scene that goes down in this book, and you see it's redrawn a little bit here. I definitely think it's all for the better. So the figures and the backgrounds look great. There's a lot of different color palettes in this book. Cold, warm, regular cityscapes, icescapes. It goes all over this book, and it's all done very well. So Jay Brown did a very good job coloring this. Debra Carita drew this very well. Cam White looked over what Debra drew, had her redraw some stuff, make it look really good. So it's a great reading experience because the Soskas had a really good script that they initially wrote, and then it got refined and polished as it became a finished product by Debra Carita, and the anchors in Cannon White having some artistic input of himself, and you get this final product. So I definitely don't think this is a big dramatic thing to get worried over. Revisions happen all the time, and again, it was very well established when Cannon White was brought on as lead art editor that this would be the first book you would see his impact on. And it's clear that when you have these preview panels that are a bit plain looking, they're much more dramatic looking and gripping to the viewer here, and also it tells a better story in my opinion. So that's the one big thing I wanted to mention there with this with that little review. I don't want to go full in and go in all the spoilers because I'm still filming this pretty early on in the fulfillment, so people don't have this yet. But from my perspective, this is a fantastic book, like I said. And it's not only fantastic because this 96-page story is its own self-contained story that leaves you wanting more. Like I said, it builds on um, other aspects of the Rippaverse. You have the fact that the Alpha Core appear. You read Alpha Core enhances their characterization. You have the fact that you've seen Yaira in ISOM #1. You want to find out more about her. You do find out more about her, so that makes it all the more intriguing. But if you just pick up this book and you see this very interesting book about this like 6'1" alien woman with ice powers going about it, and then you find out more about her, it's also a very good experience as well. It's a very well drawn and well presented book. Again, the pacing is really quickly. There isn't too much, I would say, downtime where there isn't a lot going on. There's always really something going on. There's a lot of action in this book, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on, but it's all presented very well. And it does happen, it could be a little bit too quick, but I think it's all presented very well. The exposition feels fast and punchy as well. So you find the stuff out about Yaira, and it's not like this slow, like wall of text. Let's bore the reader with presenting all this new information. It's presented all very well. It could be a little bit too quick. And like I mentioned in the written review for Yaira #1, some of the panels are a bit small. I could give a good example. So this is what I'm talking about. Like here, like there's some panels like this where it's a bit too small, and some of the text bubbles some of the speech bubbles can be placed a little bit awkwardly, so it could make the reading experience feel a bit cluttered. You have to like reread some pages a bit, but for me, it didn't really detract anything from this reading experience. This was a great story, and this really was the book to me that really would cement the Rippaverse being a true tour de force in universe storytelling, right? With the Soskas being the lore masters of the Rippaverse, so they're going to be managing all this, writing for the Rippaverse, making sure all the characters make sense, making sure all these stories overlap and build on each other in a way that makes sense. And then, of course, their own story not only has to be able to do that. So, as a standalone book, Yaira is great, but as a hardcore fan of the Rippaverse, someone who's read every single book that has been put out by the Rippaverse, and I plan on continue to do so, this has only made me want to do this more. Right? Not only do I want to read Yaira #2 and find out what happens next, I want to read Alpha Core #2 and find out what happens next. I want to read ISOM #3 and find out what happens next because of this book. And that's what a great universe does. Gets you more invested in the book and the entire universe with every series that you're invested in. Right? And Yaira does a great job at doing that. So this is a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. Of course, Rippaverse super fan. I do the Braxcast. I do all this stuff, so I could definitely am biased. But just as a comic, this is a great book. Highly recommend it. Definitely will be talking about this more as this reading copy joins the rest of my reading copies. I'll be bringing up stuff that happened in Yaira on the Braxcast as I feel more comfortable talking about spoilers and such. But for now, definitely wanted to just get this out there in video format that I highly recommend this book. Art is great, writing is great, and this really cements the Rippaverse as a comic book universe to me. Having this big breakout character, get her own book, and it's done well. And not only is it building out what we currently know in the Rippaverse, but it adds so much more, and it gives you that great feeling in comics is I want that next issue because I need to find out what happens next, right? So when you see Yaira will return in Yaira #2. You're like, I want that second issue so bad. And that's the feeling that you get when you close this book. It's the feeling I got when I closed this book because I want that next issue. I want to find out what happens next. That's what any great comic series does. And again, not only does this get you excited for Yaira #2, it gets you excited for stuff like Gooding, for stuff like ISOM #3, because it's just a well-written part of a comic book universe. Right, and that's really what this is all about. And this is what I'm going to continue to mention as I review Rippaverse books is the universe aspect of this. I keep mentioning this, but this is a very important part, is that Yaira and her book is only part of the equation. It does not exist in a bubble. It exists in tandem with other stories. And the fact that it's planting those seeds for it to overlap with those stories in a fantastic way is what drew me in. It's what's going to keep me invested. And if you pick this book up, it's what's going to get you invested as well. But with that, I've been Joker the Fool. Hopefully you guys enjoy this review. And if you guys pick up Yaira, hopefully you will enjoy it as well. It's a